Hello, and welcome to School Health Presents Talkin' Tech with Dr. Ray. I've had a lot of people approach me over the last few months talking about how to make areas and interactions more accessible and inclusive with those who may not be able to communicate effectively. We're going to have situations where an individual may walk in who does not have a communication device like a quick talker or a Big Mac and still need to try and communicate situations. Oftentimes we think of only interacting with these students using a communication board of some way, shape, or form. But how do we get those? What are we using? Where do we go? Especially when we're dealing with areas like libraries, nurses' offices, buses, interactions in a hallway. So one of the things we want to do today is take a look at a piece of assistive technology, which is actually a software, and think of the idea of the creation of communication tools going well beyond the communication board. As I share my screen here, I am going to take us to a product called Widgit. Some of you are quite familiar with the whole idea of what Widgit is. Widgit is actually one of the softwares that allow you, and I'm just going to go into a template right here, that allow you to create those templates for your communication board. However, it can go much further than that. As you can see on the templates on the side, you've got things like timetables and planners. You've also got actual communication devices that you can program in these things for. However, what I want to do is take a look at communication and have us think in a differentiated way. What do I mean by this? Well, what we're used to when we're using a software like this is the creation of a board that looks something like this. We want to get out of that mindset because when a student walks into a nurse's office, when a student walks into a library, when a student gets on a bus, they may not always have access to things like this. And what we want to do is also begin to acclimate the neurotypical individuals around them with the use of communication boards. So one of the things we've seen over the course of time is the rise of communication boards in areas like playgrounds. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. That's what we want to do. But now for you in your practical intents, let me show you a couple of tricks within Widgit to, again, start thinking in a differentiated way when it comes to using a software like this. I love this aspect of things. These are, you'll notice the circles here, these are for creating key rings. Really, just get a ring and have different types of information that you want to be able to communicate and use with the student, and then carry that around. Who do I recommend something like this for? Principals and other administrators within a school building. Perhaps the teachers who are operating in conducting classes with some of these students. Why would they have it? Wouldn't that student have that device in there? They probably would have whatever device they were using, but one of the things you want to recognize is the fact that now we take this to the next level. That teacher could be sharing that communication tool with other students in the classroom, and therefore everyone's operating and communicating in a very similar way. When we go back and we take a look at some of the other templates, I want you to start thinking through other places you can use this. I have worked with school nurses for a long time doing various things, and many school nurses have adapted different types of approaches, like having a Big Mac in there. One of the things, though, that we want to think about creating is basically a communication book for the nurse's office. What do we mean? Well, what happens when that student comes in who can't communicate and is not carrying around a device, or that student who normally could communicate but is in such pain they can't? Well, this is somewhere where now I'm just going to click on this, find a symbol, and let's see what they have for headache. This is how easy it is to put something in there like that. Now that student can communicate, they have a headache, they have a stomach ache, and it's easy. We're just printing this page out for that school nurse to interact. So we want to think that way. Think about going to a library. What else can you design for that library? And notice what happened there. It asked me if I wanted to save things. You can be saving things and creating these, whether it be for individual students or globally. A place where we often see the need for better communication is the school bus. Create a board that can go on the back of each row of seats. Create a board that can be there for the driver or the aide that's on the bus to have students communicate as they come in. I want you to start thinking about communication in a different way. I want you really to start thinking about communication and the use of pictures as a way to make sure that communication can be handled anywhere, and we acclimate others to the use of symbols and words. And yes, as you go back in, you can create other things too that are fun for an entire class. You can create different types of scaling systems. Perhaps you're working with students on behavior, but it's not just students who are nonverbal. Create things that you can utilize. Again, like any great piece of assistive technology or great piece of software, we need to break out of the myopic view of how it's being used and utilize it for its full capabilities. And that's why I love working with Widgit and the folks who've created Widgit, because they've actually listened to what the needs for communication and proper communication are. As always, I thank you for all that you do, because you do so much. And I look forward to seeing all of you somewhere down the road.